Hello everybody and welcome to Geopolitical Trends. My name is David Oualaalou. So good to be with you as always. Do you wonder why we have not heard about the demonstrations that's going on? They have been going on in Moldova for almost 6 weeks. This is what I'm going to be talking to you about in this video today. But before I launch into this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you will be notified every time I upload a new video. And as always, much appreciate your support. So here's the thing. Moldova, whoever thought? But I'm not surprised. You know why? Because I remember in one of these videos, I told you guys that if there is something to happen in Europe within the collapse, it's going to be starting in Eastern Europe, one of these EU members or so. I didn't know the exact country, and it might not even be Moldova, but I'm just looking at the trends where it's headed. So here, what we have here is several thousands of people protested in Moldova's capital, Chișinău, on Sunday. That was just a couple of days ago. And this is for the second straight weekend. Why they demonstrated? Because they are demanding the resignation of the country pro-Western government, aimed, given the mounting anger over spiraling natural gas prices and inflation. But there is more to it than just energy or inflation. So the small East European country of Moldova, which is, by the way, sandwiched between Ukraine and Romania. I remember when I went to Romania, I didn't have a chance to go to Moldova, but I knew it was closer by, and that's where it's located. So now this small, tiny European, which by the way is the poorest country in Europe, has seen political tensions rise in recent months. And again, that's due because of the gas prices that's been soaring beyond what people can afford. And protesters, which at least in one area, they amount to 7,000, based on some stats, and I will provide you the link to all this, of course, marched through the former Soviet state capital, and set up a new tent, days after the police has evacuated them. And this is, again, it's been going on for almost a month, and we have not, here in the West, have heard much about it. I know I kind of was aware of some sporadic demonstrations, different than the ones in Paris, for example, and even the ones in France. Right now, they are turning violent. I kind of checked on my tweet, and I've seen the images, and I have family members who lives in France. So of course, when I call and ask, they are confirming to me that indeed demonstrations in France, in Paris, are getting very, very violent and ugly. So, well, same thing in Moldova here. We are just not hearing much about it. So Western media is putting a lid on this kind of information. And again, because the protest also was organized by, there is a guy who is in exile now by the name Elan Shore. And Elan Shore is an exiled politician who is currently in Israel. That's the one who is also supporting this protest. Well, just to give you background on this guy, Elan Shore. Elan Shore was convicted of fraud in connection to or with a major bank scandal, and he appealed, of course, to protesters through using Skype directly from Israel, and the arguments for that is to press for early elections so that people will come to power that are capable of making life easier for Moldovians. That's his arguments. Whether it's going to hold or not is beside the point. And we're not here to talk. I'm not here to talk about Shore himself. I'm here to talk about the significance of now demonstrations in Eastern Europe that has been going on for a while. So as I said, about 7,000, give or take, demonstrators decried the steep price increases that's going on, particularly for gas bought from Russia. Because remember, Moldova used to get gas from Russia at a discounted price, very cheap. So they called now the protesters, they are calling for the resignation of the president. Her name is Maia Sandu, so, and her government. And those protesters have really, I admire them for the ability to be very concise and clear. They have 4 key demands. That's all they want. 4. One is to use Russian gas. 2 is to lower prices and inflation. 3, to quit the EU. And 4, to stop towing NATO. 4 strictly. There is no, this is not about, do you know what they want? And that's what they ask in the government. Because here's the thing. Last month, Moldova's gas regulators inside the government raised prices by about, get this guys, 27% for households. It's the poorest country in Europe. So 27%, it's too much for an average citizen. When you consider, and get this, inflation rate at the nation is over 30%, is to be exact, is at 33%. And I will provide you a link for where this stands. This is why I said last time, when the European Union comes in and said, well, the inflation is at 10%, they are lying. They are lying. Country like Moldova is an indication for where their inflation is. Why? First of all, because they used to get energy from Russia. All the Eastern European countries, most of them get energy from Russia. This is why Hungary, for example, the country of Hungary, it's deciding it's time to be out of this EU nonsense stuff. Because Orban didn't want to risk his country's economic prosperity just to satisfy some desire of the EU, wishful thinking of wanting to sanction Russia completely. They won't be able to. Europe in itself will not be able to survive without Russia gas. And I said this as soon as the conflict started, some 7-8 months ago. I did say, there is a record for it, the European Union will not be able to survive economically without Russian gas. Plain and simple. So here's the thing. The recent demonstrations in Moldova on Sunday underscored the most serious political challenge now to the president, sitting President Sandu, since her landslide election win in 2020, Because why did she win the election? She won the election on a pro-European and anti-corruption platform. That's what she won the elections on. But now Moldovians are looking at the reality differently, But Sandu, and her government, backed by a big parliamentary majority, appears in a little danger of falling for the moments in what one of the European poorest countries in Europe. So basically nothing's going to happen to her. Well, she assumes that. But remember what I said last time? That the trend that I'm seeing is in Eastern Europe. Yes, you have demonstrations in France. You have demonstrations in Germany. You have demonstrations in UK. You have demonstrations in Hungary, Romania, and now Moldova. You can just see where the trend is headed. So Moldova is also having a serious problem now, and it has to do with the difficulties in securing and paying for gas from Gazprom. And Gazprom is the Russian-owned company. So, because the government complained that last week that the Russian giant has refused to say what volumes of gas, of supplies, it would provide Moldova next month. So Moldova now is struggling as a Russian state-owned company, Gazprom, cut energy supply to the nation by 30% as of this month, the beginning of this month. Because they are, the Russians looking at Moldova like, one of those enemy on the list. Because their president is pro-Western. So of course, the president of Moldova is going to do whatever the European Union says. Even if they told them jump over the cliff, they're going to do that. Look what happened with the sanctions, And Gazprom, by the way, has called for Moldova to clear its outstanding dues of $709 million before it will be any talks of gas or whatever. So for a country like Moldova, the poorest in Europe, $709 million, it's a lot of money. And I am wondering if the EU will assist Moldova. I doubt it. This is why the EU is giving a lip service. And I will tell you why in a second here. So far the protests are unlikely to disturb the electoral mandate of President Maia Sandu. Because here's the thing that I wanted to tell you about the EU. The EU on its part gave a candidate status, get this, candidate status to Moldova. But an actual membership continued to remain a distant dream. You can read between the lines. Basically, the EU, Brussels, is giving Moldova a lip service. Do this and we'll talk about your membership in Europe. Follow us in sanctioning Russia and we will consider something. Allow NATO troops to be there on your territory and we will talk later. It's a lip service, you know. And Ursula von der Leyen, because she went to Moldova during the elections of Sandu. And by the way, von der Leyen herself is now embroiled in a bribery case with Pfizer. Yeah, she took money from Pfizer for the vaccines and all that stuff. So here's the thing. Additionally to what I just said, that the actual membership of Moldova continue to be or remain just a distant dream for Moldova. Because what's additional is that the EU has also promised financial, military, and energy aid to the small nation. Yeah? If I were a Moldovan, I would think twice about that. So the protests don't seem to have deterred Sandu, the president of Moldova, from her pro-Euro and pro-NATO stance. But can she hold on to her position longer? I wonder. What do you think? You know, people in Moldova have begun viewing now. This is part of what those protests are all about. They have begun to view now the crisis their country is in as a creation by the government. So the crisis, they argue, the people in Moldova, can be solved if good ties are maintained with Russia. And the EU is not allowed to dictate Moldova's internal and foreign policy. It looks to me like a fair request. You know, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section and I would love to read your comments. So, as always remember, geopolitics impacts your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.